Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marty Ross, and this is another Conversations with Marty Ross MD. We're in the middle of a very hot summer day here in Seattle, which is not common to be quite this warm. You may hear my air conditioner go on and off in the background. I have a very loud unit here, so you may hear some air blowing periodically throughout the webinar tonight. And my dogs are restless. I see them hopping around. So Halo and Thor, you may see them jumping around. They're the black flashes in the background. They're my two Basenji dogs. To those of you that are new here, welcome. In a little bit here, we're going to get to your questions. The way that these webinars work, you create them. You create them with your questions about Lyme disease, and I answer them to the best of my ability. I do get stumped occasionally, but usually I have a pretty good response, I think, to most of the questions that occur here. The way that you write questions to me is you write them down at the bottom of the screen in the chat box. I ask when you do write your questions that you don't hit enter until the question is complete. And the reason for that is each time that you hit enter, it actually creates a separate question. On my end, at least, and it makes it a little bit hard to navigate and find the complete question. If you are participating live in the webinar tonight and you're not listening to a recorded version of it, you will see that I actually post the questions on the screen, but those questions do not show up in the recorded version of the webinar. So I'm going to read those questions as well so that those listening in on the recorded version later can actually understand what we're talking about, okay? I am doing a recording of the webinar tonight, and tomorrow morning you will get a copy of that recording link in your email. It will also include a link to sign up for next week's webinar. I am doing one tonight and then one next week. And then I think I'm going to take a couple weeks off of doing the webinars until we get later into September again. I find usually as school gets started here, especially out here in the Seattle area, we tend not to have as good of participation. So I want to make sure that if we're going to do these, that I have good attendance. And so we'll do two more and then we'll take 2 weeks off. And I didn't say hi to those that are familiar faces. I see a number of names here that are recognized on my participating person list. And so welcome back to you too. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Generally, these webinars are an hour and a half. I will do that as long as I feel up to doing it for the hour and a half. And so with that, let's go ahead and get started. So hi, can I tell if my immune system is healthy? Hi, Colleen. Or how can I tell if my immune system is healthy? Boy, that's a hard one. I would not say that we have a good test to say whether you have a healthy immune system in terms of determining if it can fight Lyme or not fight Lyme. Having said that, there's a couple of tests you can do that can look for some problems. One of those is a type of white blood cell test called a CD57. A CD57 is a type of white blood cell called a natural killer cell, and it's a specific type of one. And we see that it is low about 80% of the time that somebody has Lyme. So it's a form of immune suppression caused by Lyme about 80% of the time. Sometimes when people are having a hard time recovering, I will also look and measure something called immunoglobulin levels, and they're called IgG antibody levels. And so sometimes we find that people just, their immune systems don't make enough antibodies and therefore they have a hard time recovering. If that were to be a situation for you, then we wind up giving IV Ig antibodies. And although that may sound great, the problem is that those Ig antibodies come from multiple donors, like a large number of donors. And so there's always the risk of when you do IV Ig treatments that you could get contamination with other infections from these other donors. So I don't say for people to do it lightly. Other common tests you want to make sure that you have adequate number of white blood cells. And so you do that by getting a CBC, a complete blood count. And then also in that, you would wind up looking at the various makeup of your white blood cells. What kind do you have? But generally, most people in Lyme don't have a problem. So the basic testing for your immune system, you just want to do a blood count, make sure you're making enough white blood cells. And then you don't need to, I usually don't advocate getting the CD57 because it's going to be low 80% of the time somebody has Lyme, but you can check and see. There isn't really anything you can do for it other than treating the Lyme infection and getting over the germ, okay? And then if you're about 6 to 9 months in treatment, you're not getting better, You tend to pick up every virus infection that comes along. Sometimes I will wind up doing the IV or measure the immunoglobulin levels as well too. Okay? All right. Thank you for that question, Colleen. Good luck to you. All right, let me pull up the next question here. Hello, Yolanda. Let's see. Dr. Ross, lately I have been feeling like my body moves or tilts to the side or back while standing. Is this a malfunction of my nervous system? Also, is there anything for joint finger pain that I can take? So about the joint and finger pain, so the joint pain is going to be from inflammation, which can be due to Lyme. Lyme inflammatory chemicals or the type of inflammation chemicals that Lyme triggers is the production of a group of inflammatory chemicals by our immune system called cytokines. Many of you know from participating in my webinars that basically my theory of Lyme is that Lyme is a syndrome of too many cytokines. And what I mean by that is when white blood cells see Lyme infections, they make cytokines. Cytokines are good and bad. On the good side, they cause more white blood cells to be made. They draw the white blood cells to where the infection is, and they help the white blood cells work better. That's all great. But the trouble is in Lyme, or if you happen to have toxin buildup issues, or if you happen to have too many yeast in your intestines, sometimes the immune system doesn't do well, and it keeps trying harder and harder, and eventually it makes too many cytokines, okay? Now, too many cytokines give you what we call Lyme symptoms. So too many cytokines make you hurt. They can give you your joint pain. They can make it so you don't think. They cause low energy. They suppress your immune system, so your immune system may not work so well. They can disturb the sleep centers. Basically, anything that we call a Lyme symptom has as part of it, or maybe the only cause of it, being excess cytokines, okay? So what I like to use to lower cytokines that would help with that finger joint pain is to work with curcumin. Curcumin is a component of the Indian seasoning turmeric, all right? And it does a great job of getting inside of white blood cells and limiting the production of cytokines. And so you want to take it as a 500 milligram pill, and you want to take it as one pill 3 times a day. Sometimes you can take it when you're having a bad Herxheimer reaction as 2 pills 3 times a day. So a Herxheimer reaction is the immune system sees dead Lyme parts as you start killing them, and it reacts by making more cytokines. So a good way to limit those is to just double up on your curcumin that I recommend, all right? The other thing that sometimes happens if you're older that can happen with joint pains is as we get older in our most used joints, we wear down the cartilage. So wherever 2 bones come together, the surfaces of those bones are covered by cartilage. Cartilage's function is to allow bones in the joints to glide over each other easily. The cartilage that covers the bones in the joints is soft and spongy and smooth, okay? So it allows things to glide over each other easily. So cartilage would cover the bones. These are like 2 bones in your joints, okay? So cartilage covers, makes it so the bones glide over each other easily. But it's also soft and spongy, so it's a shock absorber. So it allows your bones to bounce off of each other when they hit. Now, what can happen is as we age, we can wear down the cartilage in our joints, in our most used joints usually. They can be in our neck joints, sometimes our finger joints, especially this finger joint, for instance. And when we wear down that cartilage, you get bone rubbing on bone, and that leads to inflammation. So in addition, and then one additional thing that can happen when you have Lyme is Lyme likes to burrow into tissues. It likes to get away from good blood flow and good oxygenation. So Lyme can make enzymes that can break cartilage down. So sometimes when you have Lyme, you get a more rapid destruction of the joint, of the cartilage. And so when I've got somebody that I'm treating their Lyme and they've got joint pain that's not responding to the antibiotics, their joint pain isn't getting better, maybe even though all their other symptoms are getting better, I start wondering, have they, in addition to cytokine inflammation from Lyme, have they worn down some of that cartilage in their joint? Has Lyme gotten in there and even already worn down cartilage further, for instance, okay? So what you can do for that is you can rebuild that cartilage. And what I like to use to rebuild the cartilage is something called glucosamine sulfate. It's a 500 milligram pill. It is a building block of cartilage. It's one of the bricks and mortar that makes up cartilage, okay? And you do 500 milligrams 3 times a day. That's of glucosamine sulfate. And usually in about 2 or 3 months, if it's going to make a difference, you will see changes in your joint pain from that. Okay. So Yolanda, try the curcumin first. If that doesn't seem to help well enough, and if you've already been treating your Lyme for a while, consider adding in that glucosamine sulfate too. All right. Thank you for that question. Oh, let's see. There was another part here, I think. Oh, yeah. In terms of the tilting back and forth, your ability to keep yourself aligned is determined by your central nervous system, the brain part of your nervous system, okay? And so sometimes if you are having difficulty maintaining that balance or feel like you're wavering back and forth, that can sometimes be an indication that you're having central nervous system problems, okay, or involvement of Lyme of the nervous system as well, too. All right. Thanks for that question, Yolanda. All right, let's see here. Hello, Victoria. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I have Lyme and a connective tissue autoimmune disease. I'm taking Cemento and Banderol and Lowdose Naltrexone and supplements. Do you think I should add Plaquenil to this to stop the autoimmune from progressing? Or is the Cemento and Banderol, Lowdose Naltrexone, and curcumin enough? All right. So everyone, by autoimmune illness, that means the immune system is attacking, okay? And that can lead to inflammation. So the common autoimmune illnesses that we think of are rheumatoid arthritis, lupus arthritis. Many of you may be familiar with those, okay? For some people with Lyme, Lyme can trigger an autoimmune illness, and that can be that the body will start attacking itself. And there's not a good test for Lyme autoimmune illness. But at a point in time, if somebody's not getting better from Lyme, and I've used antibiotics, we're 6 to 9 months into treatment, I might start considering a trial of low-dose naltrexone to help treat autoimmune illness, all right? So I'll tell you why low-dose naltrexone. That's what LDN stands for, is low-dose naltrexone. The other times that I'm considering using low-dose naltrexone for autoimmune illness, maybe earlier in the Lyme treatment, is if I've got somebody that has an obvious autoimmune illness, like they've got Hashimoto's thyroiditis, thyroid inflammation, which is an autoimmune kind of condition. Or if they have enough symptoms to say they have rheumatoid arthritis as part of their Lyme disease, okay? In those kind of situations, I might use low-dose naltrexone from the beginning of treatment, all right? But if somebody is under treatment, I'm usually going to wait about 6 to 9 months, and if they're not getting better, low-dose naltrexone may be one of those things I add into their treatment as a means of helping to decide, is this an autoimmune condition now triggered by Lyme? Has Lyme triggered an autoimmune illness that's perpetuating the problem, okay? So what is LDN? What is low-dose naltrexone, all right? So naltrexone is a narcotic blocker, and in fact, it's manufactured as a 50 milligram pill. It's a prescription medicine. When we use it as a low-dose naltrexone, though, we're going to dose it at about 1.5 milligrams up to 4.5 milligrams a day. Okay, so that's why it's called low-dose naltrexone. And so it has to be mixed up by a compounding pharmacist. So what does it do? Well, it's a narcotic blocker. So we use it for people, for instance, that have narcotic drug overdoses. All right, and that's how we use it in like in emergency rooms. But it also because it blocks narcotics, it blocks a group of chemicals we make called endorphins. Endorphins are chemicals we make to control pain, but they also regulate the immune system. So what we can do is we can use naltrexone. It blocks our endorphin receptors, the places where our endorphins act in our body. And if we block those long enough, the brain says, whoa, wait a minute, I don't like that. And the brain sends out a bunch of signals to the endorphin-producing cells in the body to tell them to make more endorphins to overcome the roadblock, all right? So now when the naltrexone wears off, those sites get flooded with all of that extra, with all those extra endorphins. And that has an effect of re-regulating the immune system, all right? So there's 3 autoimmune conditions for which we have science saying that it can make a difference. And those 3 conditions are fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, and Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is a type of autoimmune illness of the intestines, okay? And because of that, that would suggest maybe it's going to work in other conditions. I find it helps in Lyme by itself when Lyme doesn't have other known autoimmune conditions with it. I find it helps in Lyme maybe 10 to 15% of the time. So I don't find it to be a big chance of helping, but it can make a difference. And usually it's going to take about 2 to 3 months to know if it's going to help, okay? So that's low-dose naltrexone. Now in the Treat Lyme book at www.treatlyme.net, I have a whole article on low-dose naltrexone. So all this stuff I just said, you can hear it again if you want to. You can read about it too. And you'll find that in the immune system chapter within the Treat Lyme book, okay? And I'll show you that here in just a second, all right? Now, Victoria asked another question, that is, should she be on Plaquenil? Okay, now Plaquenil is a prescription medicine. It was originally designed to treat malaria, but it was found, it doesn't work that well for malaria anymore. In fact, it doesn't work that well at all. But it does have the ability of regulating inflammation. So the number one prescribers of that drug these days are actually a rheumatologist, so arthritis doctors. And that's because they use it to regulate inflammation. So if you're looking for a quick way to get that inflammation under control, you could try the Plaquenil. Usually I use it as 200 milligrams twice a day. But to be honest with you, it's going to interfere with your ability to know if the naltrexone is working. Because one of the ways you're going to gauge if naltrexone is working is you're going to want to see if your inflammation gets better over a 2-month period of time, okay? So I would consider not using the Plaquenil and just waiting a little bit. Give your naltrexone a period of time to work, actually, okay? All right. Those are my thoughts on that. I want to do a quick screen share here with everyone. All right, so I'm in the Treat Lyme book. Many of you are familiar with this. This is how you sign up for the webinars, for instance. You go here. All right, and then, so what I want to do, I'm going to follow the chapters up here. I'm going to go into the chapters tab. And in the immune system chapter, which is in the problem solve section, you can see, for instance, I wrote a whole article about cytokines I talked to you earlier. The reason you want to lower cytokines is that can help deal with immune suppression, because cytokines that are made by the immune system to fight Lyme get made in too great an amount, and that can cause immune suppression, all right? And then in terms of low-dose naltrexone, where are you? Here's the article right here. It's called On Low-Dose Naltrexone and Lyme, Does It Help? There's another article I also wrote about it called When Your Immune System Causes Lyme. And it probably should be When Your Immune System Causes Lyme Symptoms, okay? And that's the idea that at some point, maybe Lyme triggers an immune system attack of your body. And that what is left of Lyme symptoms really are autoimmune symptoms triggered by Lyme, all right? But both of these articles will talk about low-dose naltrexone as I have been talking about here, all right? All right, let me go back here. All right, Victoria, thank you for the question. I hope that gives you some things to work with there. All right. All right, let's see here. Hello, Eric. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. If I'm on Biaxin and rifampin, should I be concerned if I get bit by a mosquito or a tick that can reinfect me? Is Biaxin a good antibiotic to prevent reinfection, or do I need doxy or minnow? So I like using Biaxin if I have people that I'm sending into Lyme endemic areas, and I know that every time they get a tick bite, they get Lyme, they get worse with their Lyme. For instance, I might actually have them on Biaxin. There is only one problem, though, in terms of Biaxin. It's going to be good at preventing Lyme. It may help prevent Babesia, but it may help with Bartonella, but it's not going to do anything for two other co-infections you can get from that tick bite. And those are Anaplasma and Ehrlichia. Now, those tend to give a lot of bad muscle aches and high temperatures, okay? So if you can tolerate it, and also the sunburning is an issue when you're on doxycycline or minocycline. The tetracyclines lead to easier sunburning. If you can tolerate that, then go on your doxycycline or minocycline. But generally, I accept the fact that maybe it's not going to pick up Ehrlichia and Anaplasma. Those are actually, if you get those, they're fairly easy to treat, in my opinion. So generally, I am going to work with a Biaxin to prevent Lyme, and that should be enough. Okay, but just realize there's that small percentage of problem that you might not cover an Ehrlichia or an Anaplasma. But again, those are fairly easy infections to treat with tetracyclines if you should get them. Okay, at least that's my opinion. I know a number of my colleagues may not necessarily agree with that. All right, thanks for that question, Eric. Hello, Colleen. Let's see. Would you recommend on the East Coast, New England, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area for, who would I recommend? For a good LLMD who offers both prescription and natural medicine options. So many of you are probably familiar with Richard Horowitz, who has done quite a bit of writing about Lyme. Horowitz works in a similar fashion to what I do in terms of recommending a blend of herbs and prescription medicines. So he's a consideration. I don't know. In terms of technically, he's a good consideration. I don't, from what I understand, he may not be as open to engaging a dialogue as I might. I'll just put it that way. I don't know. I think technically he's a good doctor, though. Okay. Another in upstate New York, up in the Rhinebeck area, there are two physicians. They're the Bach brothers, B-O-C-K. I think it's B-O-C-K. Actually, hold on here, man. I'm going to look that up real quick and see. It's Dr. Stephen Bach. He treats Lyme in a similar fashion to what I do. And he's got a brother up there, too. Bear with me here just a minute. Or maybe it's B-A-C-H. Hold on. So it's B-O-C-K, actually. Dr. Stephen Bach, B-O-C-K. He's up in Rhinebeck, New York. Is a possibility of considering him. And then there's another Bach brother as well, too. Hold on here just a minute. Yeah, I would start with Stephen Bach. Those are some ideas that I have. Let's see. Then they're in Pennsylvania. Oh, gosh. I am blanking on the name in Pennsylvania. Yeah, those are some ideas for you. Okay. So I'm sorry. The other ones aren't coming to my mind right now, Colleen. It's the end of a long day here. Anyhow, good luck to you. All right, let's see here. Hello, Jenny. Thank you for all your knowledge about Lyme disease. You're welcome. I have learned a lot reading and listening to you. I would like to know what you think about ionic foot baths. Do they do a good job of detoxing and removing microbes? Thanks. I don't think so. I'm sorry to be so negative on them, but I mean, it looks pretty. I mean, you put your foot in these things and the water gets all dark and dirty. And so it's a good way of thinking you're pulling toxins out. But I don't see how you're actually getting toxins out of the blood through your skin adequately to do it. And I think it's just more of an interaction with chemicals in the water and electricity leading to that coloration change as opposed to actually being true detoxing work. All right. So I'm not a big believer in them, actually. All right. Thanks for that question, Jenny. Hello, Debbie. Let's see. What is the significance of an increase in mycotoxin levels despite 3 months of itraconazole treatment? Debbie, that's a good question. Everyone, Debbie wrote to me earlier today about this, and I know exactly who she's talking about. Debbie, I got to tell you, I don't know. I need to get a hold of the medical director at Real Time Labs. I need to talk with them a little bit more about what's happening with this situation, so that I get some ideas, because I'm kind of stumped by this as well, and I know you are too. So I'll have to take a look at that, and I would assume that the person in question here, without divulging and violating confidentiality, has been doing toxin binders too. So I got that question late today. I need to discuss it. I need to try to reach out to the medical director at real time tomorrow and see if they have some ideas on that. All right. The only other thing I could think of just off the top of my head, and I want to talk with them about other ideas, is that the itraconazole is not working. It's not killing the mold that may be colonizing the sinuses or the intestines. Okay. So anyhow, Debbie, I'll get back to you on that one. All right. Thank you. Everyone, Debbie's talking about using itraconazole for treating mold colonization of sinuses and the intestines. And if you have mold that colonizes sinuses and intestines, it can release toxins. And so mold toxins. And there's a lab we can use to measure mold toxins. That's a lab called Real Time. But when you're on treatment, they should be going down. And unfortunately, we had a situation where they went up. And so I'm kind of scratching my head on this one too. So Debbie, I'll have to get back to you on that one. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Hello, Sarah. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Lost weight with Lyme and cannot put on a pound no matter how much I eat. I have a very good appetite, no GI upset. All other tests are normal. You had suggested parasites and Alinea to treat. My doc won't prescribe Alinea because stool tests are normal. Any safe herbal suggestions? Thank you. So everyone, what I described to Sarah last week, I think it sounds like it was maybe 2 weeks ago. I think I was off last week. But so one of the things that can lead to not being able to gain weight is if you have parasites in your intestines, basically, that are eating up all your nutrients. Now, sometimes there's obvious signs you have parasites. You'll have indigestion, you'll have gasiness, bloating. You can have diarrhea, for instance, okay? But that's not always true, all right? Now, you can do stool testing to see if you have parasites, but the trouble is parasites are hard to see. And so even if you have negative testing, that does not exclude having parasites. Now, if you do happen to have chronic parasites in your intestines, like Lyme, they can trigger too many cytokines. So they can become a contributing factor to why people have difficulty getting over Lyme symptoms as well, too. So people that I'm going to think about parasites in as part of my Lyme treatment are people that have done a lot of international travel, people that drink well water. Even if they've had their wellhead tested, I'm going to think about parasites if they drink well water, okay? Or if I've got people that have a lot of GI symptoms that don't get better even as I treat yeast, I'm going to think about parasites, all right? And finally, I'm going to think about them in the person that cannot gain weight. And so what I will do is I will just treat, even if testing is negative. And what I like to treat, my favorite anti-parasite medicine is Alinea, because the mechanism by which it works should kill everything. Now, it's a prescription medicine now, but if I'm going to use it empirically, meaning because I think there's enough symptoms and rationale to use it, I'm going to use it as a 500 milligram pill, and I'm going to have people take it as one pill twice a day, and I'm going to have them do it for about 3 weeks. Okay, that's how I wind up using Alinea. Right now, you can do herbs, and you can find herbal supplements, but I just generally don't care for them because I don't think they work that well. They work maybe about 40% of the time. The main ingredient that you're going to find in herbal anti-parasite medicines is something called black walnut. Sometimes artemisinin will be part of that too. Many of you may know about artemisinin because we use it to treat Babesia, the blood parasite Babesia that you can see in Lyme disease. And so you can find some of these herbal mixtures that are anti-parasitic will have artemisinin in them. But the main agent that actually is going to work is the black walnut. And what I would do is whatever you find, I don't necessarily have a favorite product here because I just don't use them. I use Alinea, so I can't report on what the best product is for a black walnut mix. But a black walnut mix of some kind is what you might want to try. Okay? All right. Sorry that you can't find somebody to help you there, Sarah. And good luck. Good luck with that. All right. All right, let's see here. Hello, Joanne. Let's see. Can Lyme cause Parkinson's symptoms? Yes, it can. So the Lyme infection can give you Alzheimer's. In fact, it's been shown to occur by biopsies in the brains of some people with Alzheimer's. Now, one of my colleagues, a pathologist, Dr. Alan McDonald, thinks that most Alzheimer's is caused by Lyme based on his brain biopsy results. Many of you may know of him if you've seen the documentary Under Our Skin. Alan McDonald is especially featured prominently in that first one. I can't remember whether he's featured in the second one. I actually haven't seen the second one, but in the first one he was definitely featured quite a bit in there. It also can cause some Parkinson's disease and some Parkinson's symptoms. It can be a cause of multiple sclerosis. It can be a cause of Lou Gehrig's disease, or also known as ALS. Now, it does not mean all MS is Lyme. It does not mean all Lou Gehrig's disease is Lyme. And it does not mean that all Parkinson's disease is Lyme, but some of it can be caused by Lyme. And so, Joanne, I hope that answers your question there, all right? And good luck. Hello, Carrie. Let's see, are you familiar with colloidal silver treatments? If so, what are the success rates and benefits? And thank you so much for your dedication to us. You're welcome, Carrie. Colloidal silver, I think it can be something that helps maybe about 40% of the time. But there are better treatments, okay? So for instance, I think that prescription antibiotics work better. I think herbal antibiotics work better. But it's one of those things that I would recommend people try maybe if everything else is failing. There's some precautions I would give you about colloidal silver, and that in colloidal silver, there is a maximum lifetime amount you can take, because if you go over the maximum threshold, it can actually lead to blue coloration of your skin. And once you get that blue color, it's not coming out, okay? So you would stay permanently blue, okay? Now, each manufacturer should have an indication of what their maximum amount is. You may need to call them and talk to them, depending on what product you're using, but that is the major precaution that I would have about colloidal silver, all right? All right. Thank you, Carrie, for that question. Good luck. All right, let's see here. Hello, Colleen. Why not eat red meat to draw out the Borrelia and then attack it with doxy? Colleen, I'm not sure totally what your rationale is. I'm wondering if you just think that Borrelia is attracted to red meat. I'm not aware that it is, actually. And so, yeah, I'm not sure that it would act as something that would draw it out. In fact, Lyme is designed to actually try to evade the immune system. So it likes to hide in tissues of poor oxygenation and poor blood flow. And I'm not aware of anything that says it's attracted to red meat. All right? All right. Thank you for the question. Hello, Val. Let's see, Dr. Ross. Our doc suggested IgG subcutaneous infusions 2 times per week for low IgG panel, below normal for subunits 1 and 3, and decreased total IgG in all 4 subunits from last year. Any thoughts about alternatives to rebuild immunity? Thank you. So, the IgG is not going to rebuild your immunity, and I think you know that. I don't think that's what you're asking here. And this is one of the questions I had earlier tonight is about tests for the immune system, and I was talking about IgG. The only caution I have about getting your immunoglobulin infusions, again, you got to worry about having a clean sample, okay? And that might be a hard thing to get as something that truly, well, they're going to test it, but because you have to get your sample from so many pooled donors, there will always be the risk of getting some kind of an infection from your IgG. At least in theory, there's always that risk, okay? Things that you can do to boost your immune system. Number one, get your Lyme knocked down, okay? Because Lyme releases chemicals that suppress the immune system. Number two, I like when I have people with immune suppression, I like working with mushrooms. Mushrooms like reishi gano, maitake, shiitake mushrooms. Those are things that are good at boosting the cellular part of your immune system. A product I like using for that is something called the Immune Builder 5 Mushroom Complex. It's made by a company called JHS Naturals. It is a hot water extraction. It draws out all the good chemicals from those mushrooms and does not include all the mold contaminants, okay? So it's the Immune Builder 5 Mushroom Complex. We carry it at our store at treatlyme.com. Marty Ross MD, Terrabrook ND supplements. That's where you can find that one. And many of the supplements I recommend, that's where you can find them. Other things that you might consider doing to boost your immune system, exercise, if you can do it. Now, I know that may be harder when you have Lyme, but exercise can boost the immune system. The thing about exercise, you have to do it to tolerance. And you've got to find a level. If that is only walking 10 minutes a day, that's your level. Find a level that for which you do not pay the price the next day, okay? Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. That boosts the immune system, okay? Getting sleep boosts the immune system. And then another thing I would do is make sure you're on curcumin, lowering your cytokines. That can help turn on the immune system because cytokines suppress the immune system. And then making sure you have adequate thyroid and adrenal function, because low adrenals or low thyroid is going to lead to immune suppression as well too. Okay, so get sleep, exercise if you can to tolerance, fix low adrenals, fix thyroid, lower your cytokines, consider working with mushrooms, treat your infections because the infections suppress the immune system, okay? Those are some standard approaches that I have to boost the immune system. And I think all of that is in an article I have in the immune system chapter. It's Immune System Basics 101, I believe. Let me just double check that here. I'm going to do a quick screen share. Whoops, I was going to do a screen share. Let me go back here and try that again. All right, so if you're ever wondering what would Marty Ross do, take a look at the Treat Lyme book first, okay? You don't have to necessarily wait for these webinars, all right? So look in the chapters. There is a chapter I have on immune system, and there is a chapter called Immune System 101, the basics, okay? This is where I talk about steps to deal with immune suppression. So take a look at this article. Most of it is what I just described and talking with you here and answering that question, okay? All right, let me go back here. Okay, Val, good luck to you. Thank you for that question. Hello, Jake. Let's see. All docs are telling me I don't have Lyme. The IGeneX IgM 39 is indeterminate, 41 is positive, 8393 is indeterminate. The IgG 39 is indeterminate, 41 positive, 58 are positive. Was also diagnosed with celiac disease, high Epstein-Barr virus antibody, not active, ANA positive, low titer. What do you think? So Jake, what I would do is take a look at the article. It's a video article. It's a 15-minute video article that I have recorded from a webinar a few years ago about how to diagnose Lyme. And I would point you to that. You can find it in the How to Diagnose chapter in the Treat Lyme book. What I will tell you is just briefly, and I'm going to be very brief, I have much more detail in that 15-minute video as part of the Treat Lyme book, is that there's 4 things you consider. One is, what's the risk of getting it? In other words, if you have a known tick bite in New Jersey where 95% of ticks carry Lyme, good chance you got Lyme, okay? But if you don't have, but 50% of the time people don't have tick bite history, they may still have risk of getting it. So take a look at my video to understand if you have a risk of getting it. Second thing I consider is, do you have symptoms that suggest it? Third thing I consider is, are there any physical exam findings, for which there usually aren't many? And then the fourth thing is I look at is, do you have a supportive test? Okay, so testing is only one thing of 4 things that I look at. Your testing is indeterminate. It's not positive or negative. That's what I would tell you about your test, okay? And that is because at your IgM antibody, at that 39 being reported indeterminate and your 8393 being reported indeterminate, that may mean that you're making antibodies, but a weak amount, not strong enough to be truly called positive, but a weak amount of antibodies. And if you are, I'd be calling your test positive. So in other words, if those indeterminates being reported at 8393 and at 39 are actually you're making an amount of antibodies, but a weak amount, then I might call your test positive. And the only way I would even call that test positive is if you've got enough symptoms and enough risk factors of getting Lyme. Then I might turn around and interpret this as being a positive test, okay? So for much more information, And believe me, there's a lot more information that I have recorded on this. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. So what you want to do is take a look at the Treat Lyme book. Look in the chapter called Lyme, in the chapters under this column called Lyme Disease 101. Take a look at how to diagnose. And I have a whole article on how do you diagnose Lyme disease. And if you notice what the title is here, it's called How to Diagnose Chronic Lyme Disease More Than a Test, okay? That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. It's more than a test. So take a look here. Click on this button. This is the 15-minute video article I have about how to diagnose Lyme disease, all right? The other thing that I would point out here is in terms of how to interpret that Western blot, take a look at, and why I might call that even a weekly positive test. Look in the chapters. Look under the Lyme Disease 101 test chapter. And in here is an article on the Western blot Lyme test where I describe how to interpret it, okay? So take a look at that article too. It's actually recording as well. All right, let me go back here. All right, Jake. So take a look at that. I've got a lot more information than I would rather spend time in the webinar time because what I would say here is the same as what you're going to see in those recorded articles, okay? All right. Good luck to you. All right, let's see. Oh, Jake, one more thing I just want to say is Lyme is more than a test, okay? You've got to look beyond the test. Again, you need more. I need more information, but you know all the information. If you look at my recorded video, you may see why, based on your situation, whether you have Lyme or not, okay? All right, good luck. Hello, Colleen. Been in June on Doxy for 5 weeks. What should I be doing next? So, if you were started on that doxycycline within 3 to 4 weeks of your bite, that may be all you need to do. So doxycycline, even 100 milligrams twice a day, although generally I want to use 200 milligrams twice a day, but most docs will do 100 milligrams twice a day. 5 weeks may be enough. However, 20% of the time, this is even based upon the IDSA, the Infectious Disease Society of America, will acknowledge that there are studies that show 20% of the time, people after 1 month of treatment remain symptomatic. So if you're still symptomatic, you need to be treated longer. And if you are still symptomatic, meaning you have fatigue or you have confusion or you're having joint pain, if you have any symptoms of Lyme disease, you should still be treated. And you should be treated until those symptoms are gone. That's what I would do, okay? If you're going to be treated for more than 5 weeks, though, in addition to using doxycycline, consider adding in grapefruit seed extract. And the reason you want to do that's the herb grapefruit seed extract, which would treat the cyst form of the Lyme germ. The Lyme germ exists in 3 forms. And the trouble with doxy is it only treats 2 forms. It treats intracellular Lyme, which is a form of Lyme that moves inside of your cells. And it also treats the spirochete form of Lyme, which is a corkscrew, okay? But it does nothing at all for the cyst form of the Lyme germ, which in an acute situation is probably okay. Maybe your immune system will step in and take care of those cysts. But if you've been on Lyme treatment for more than about a month, I usually am going to want to add in something to treat the cyst form of the germ. And grapefruit seed extract will do that. 250 milligrams, 1 pill, 2 times a day is what I would do for that, okay? Anyhow, those are some thoughts for you. If you need more specific detail based on your specific situation, one of the things that you could do, and I'll just show this to everyone. Let me go ahead and do a screen share here again. So at the Treat Lyme book site, treatlyme.net, on the Treat Lyme book, if you look up here, there is this tab called Online Consult. Read through this, read all the way through it, all this information about how it works and the disclaimer and the requirements to see if this is something that you might want to do. But this is a service that I use where people can talk with me over the internet using Skype. And we visit, and I give you ideas based on your personal situation about what to do. Now, because I don't get to examine you, my medical board would not allow me to prescribe things for you or order tests. But I do provide you a medical visit note that you can share with your doctors. And if there is something you need to do, maybe you could get them to do it, okay? But I'd be glad to help you with your situation, at least in terms of determining what to do next, okay? All right, let me go back here. All right, Colleen, thank you for that question. Hello, Matt. Let's see. My husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but recently he was tested for Lyme with band 41 positive. How can we find out if he has Lyme disease or Parkinson's disease? So, again, I'm going to refer you. So diagnosing Lyme is complex, okay? So there's two ways that we could do this. One is take a look at my 15-minute recorded video article on how to diagnose Lyme and see if there's enough in there that gives you information where you can help figure out if he's got Lyme, because the test alone is not going to give you the answer. It's part of the clue, okay? Or if you want more direct input, take a look at the one-to-one consult service that I was just showing everyone here a minute ago, okay? I'd be glad to help look at that with you, okay? All right. Thanks for that question. Hello, Jenny. Let's see. Thank you for all your knowledge about Lyme disease. You're welcome. I have learned a lot from your articles and webinars. I would like to know, oh, wait a minute. You posted this question twice. But thank you again for your comments. So I already answered this one earlier. Let me get rid of that. Let's see. Do I cover Bartonella as well? Yes, Robert, I do. And without knowing what your specific question is, what I'd like to do is refer you to two articles. And so let me do a screen share here. And actually, I may refer you to three things. Okay, so first of all, take a look in the chapters. Take a look in the infection treatment plans chapter. And here you'll see an article that I've written about how to kill Bartonella. It's called Kills Bartonella, a Brief Guide. Okay, so that'll tell you how to get rid of Bartonella. In the How to Diagnose chapter, right here, Lyme Disease 101, How to Diagnose, take a look at the article called, it could be Bartonella or Babesia, the Symptoms and Signs, where I basically tell you don't rely on Bartonella testing because it's really not any good. And I suggest that you actually take a look at your symptoms to determine if you have Bartonella. So click on that one, okay? And then how do you put a whole treatment together? Well, take a look at my treatment protocol. It's called the Successful Treatment Recipe. Read through this whole thing. It is free. This is one part that is free, where I will go through and I tell you basically what do you need to do, like get sleep, like be on a good detox diet. Paleo diet is what I like to do. You can read about it here. Lower cytokines. And yeah, I give you all the steps you need to recover from Lyme disease. So take a look at the Successful Treatment Recipe that you will find in the treatment protocol tab right here. Okay. All right. So I hope that gives you some useful information there. Let me go back. All right. Thanks, Robert. Good luck to you. Hello, Kathy. Let's see. Got Lyme and Babesia diagnosed within a month. Given 3 weeks doxy and wormwood tincture. Symptoms gone, headaches, mobile vibration, stiffness, vivid dreams, breathing problems. What is the follow-up to avoid relapse? Okay, so a couple things. It is possible that 3 weeks of doxy did take care of Lyme. Now, if you had a lot of symptoms, actually, that may be enough. What I would do at this point is I would just wait and see what happens. 3 weeks may be enough. There really isn't any follow-up testing we can do to see if treatment is done. It is really just a matter of waiting to see if your symptoms are all gone. So if your symptoms are all gone, you're probably done. And is there anything you can do necessarily to avoid a relapse? Not necessarily, unfortunately, at this point, because it's very possible that your 3 weeks of treatment may have been enough to cure you. Okay? All right. Thanks for that question. So if you are completely symptom-free, I probably wouldn't do anything else but just wait and watch at this point. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Kathy. Hello, Priscilla. See, do you suggest any natural supplements for daily recurring headaches? So, first of all, for daily recurring headaches, if you've got headaches up here in the front of the head, make sure you don't have enough other symptoms suggesting Babesia. And if you do have a number of Babesia symptoms, in addition to frontal headaches, sometimes your headaches are part of Babesia, treat your Babesia, okay? If your headaches tend to be more back here and you got a lot of creaking and crackling of your neck, that sometimes is more of a Lyme headache, so make sure you're treating your Lyme. If your headache is more of an ongoing pressure headache of the whole head, that sometimes is what I'll see in Bartonella. Make sure you're treating your Bartonella, or at least looking to see if you have enough symptoms suggesting Bartonella. And if you do, treat your Bartonella, okay? Those are just some thoughts that I have for you, okay? Other things that you can do for headaches, one good thing to do is if you get recurring headaches is to be on magnesium. Magnesium is very good for headaches. And the way you wind up taking it, you want to get anywhere from about 400 to 600 milligrams in a day. And usually what I suggest people do is they take it at nighttime because that amount can make you sleepy, actually. If you happen to be on Zithromax or Biaxin, be careful with your magnesium. Don't take the two together. Don't take your magnesium and your Biaxin or Zithromax together because it can decrease the absorption of those antibiotics, okay? Yeah, so those are just some thoughts that I have for you. Another thing, if your headaches are migraine headaches, migraines are known as a vascular headache. They're usually going to be in the front of your head, and you're usually going to have some light sensitivity and or nausea with them. One of the herbs that can do a great job preventing migraine headaches is an herb called butterbur, and that's butter and then burr, okay, and B-U-R-R. And you want to take it as 50 milligrams 3 times a day. And that's been shown in studies to be as good as any of the preventive prescription options at preventing those headaches as well, too. All right? All right. Thanks for that question. Good luck to you. Oh, one more thing about magnesium. If it's got a maximum amount, if you're taking too much magnesium, you're going to have diarrhea, okay? So the way you judge how much to take is take an amount up to the amount that gives you diarrhea. If you get diarrhea, you got to back it down, okay? So that's usually going to be in that 400, 600 milligram range, all right? All right. Good luck to you. All right. Hello, Ryan. Let's see. Quick thoughts about these symptoms. Mouth sores, dry burning mouth, hot feeling all over, and temperature sensitive, heart palpitations, and racing heart. Well, I don't know. I mean, I would need to know a lot more besides just these symptoms. But mouth sores can sometimes, if you've got yeast overgrowth in the intestines, sometimes you're going to get mouth sores. Sometimes mouth sores can be canker sores. Dry burning mouth coupled with mouth sores, the burning can be from yeast in your mouth, okay? So that some things about that. The temperature sensitivity, heart palpitations, heart racing, sometimes you'll see that as part of Babesia, but sometimes it can be part of Lyme. So it's not specific enough for Babesia. I would take a look at the list of symptoms. Go to the Treat Lyme book at treatlyme.net. Look in the chapter How to Diagnose and see the article about how to diagnose Babesia and see if there are enough symptoms there that you're having that can suggest Babesia, okay? That might be something to look at least for the racing of the heart and the temperature sensitivity kind of questions that you have here, all right? All right. Thanks for that question, Ryan. Good luck to you. Let's see. Oh, I already answered that question from Jake. Let's see this one. Hello, Colleen. Let's see. Thank you so much for giving these webinars for Lyme patients, Dr. Ross. We really appreciate thank you, Colleen. I appreciate that. Many of you, I don't know if you know, but I generally don't really read these before I flash them up so you can see them. So anyhow, I appreciate that, Colleen. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Hello, Em. Let's see. Have you heard of the study, Bent study, I think it's called, regarding high-dose Claritin for bacteria infections? I was told by a PCP that it was a petri dish study, but found it was helpful to killing bacteria by depriving the manganese. Curious if you know about this and need more info. So there was, I think it's about a year, maybe 2 years ago, this study came out. So yeah, I'm aware of it. I didn't realize it was actually called the Bench study, though. But what they were able to show in petri dish experiments is that if they use Claritin, it would deprive Lyme of manganese, and therefore the Lyme germ would not thrive. I will tell you, I've worked with the Claritin in some of my patients. I don't really find it to be that helpful, actually. So I think it's more on a petri dish, which is really tightly controlled. The other thing I don't like about some of these studies that talk about starving the germ of nutrients is, so for some of my patients will come in saying, I read an article that says biofilms needs magnesium. I think I'm going to stop having magnesium, or they get told by their doctors to stop magnesium. Keep in mind that you can't really starve your Lyme germ, because then you starve yourself, okay? Because we need magnesium too, for instance, and we need manganese, for instance, all right? And these germs are designed to live in us. So of course they're going to use the same things we do, all right? So you can't starve a biofilm, because you're going to starve yourself of magnesium, and we need magnesium to run, okay? So just kind of keep those ideas in mind when you hear about these studies that talk about starving, or somebody suggests starve yourself. Don't do that. You need a lot of those nutrients that people talk about starving themselves of, okay? That's just my philosophy on things. All right. Thanks, Em, for that question. Let's see. Hello, Randy. Let's see. I had surgery 3 weeks ago. I am feeling fatigue with muscle weakness and sore throat, which is the symptoms I always had with Lyme. What can I do to increase my energy and build my immune system? I'm taking Banderol Cemento 15 drops twice a day. Anything else you recommend? Thank you. All right. So just a thought, and I don't know from the way you wrote this, but one of the things that I see, and I know a number of my colleagues that treat Lyme disease see, and that is if you have surgery and it involves general anesthesia, and general anesthesia means they put the breathing tube down your throat into your lungs, and they put the anesthesiologist has you breathe in gas through the breathing tube, and that's how you have anesthesia, okay? Now that's different than something else that is going on more and more these days, which is called conscious sedation. And what conscious sedation is basically they use an IV to give you medicines like Valium and other sleepy-causing medicines that make you sleepy, but it's not the same thing as general anesthesia, okay? But with general anesthesia, what can happen that we see, many of us see, and I see quite often, is when my patients have general anesthesia, their Lyme can get more active. We're not sure why, but it does happen, okay? So it could be if your Lyme was doing well and then you had general anesthesia, it might be that you really are having more Lyme activity. And so one thing I would suggest is your Banderol Cemento is a little bit low dosed right now. Banderol Cemento is better for most people, not everyone. I mean, there's some people that can only use 2 drops twice a day on Banderol Cemento, or they get severe herxes. But most people, if you can tolerate it, working your way up slowly to 30 drops twice a day is a more effective killing range, okay? And so when I say slowly, the way I increase Banderol Cemento is I increase by 1 drop every other day, up per dose, up to 30 drops twice a day. And if I have a person that's herxing, I advise them not to increase until that herxing is passed, okay? So I do not like to advance my Banderol Cemento into a Herxheimer reaction, all right? And so keep that in mind, okay? And the other thing that you might want to do to help boost your immune system, so having gone through surgery, that taxes the immune system. It taxes your adrenal glands too. So you might consider doing adrenal support. And one of the things that can help with that is the herb ashwagandha. That's ashwagandha, ashwagandha. It's an Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine herb that has been used for thousands of years, actually, to boost energy in people. But it's also shown through animal experiments to improve adrenal function. And your adrenal glands basically work rapidly to boost your immune system, okay? So it's ashwagandha, 400 milligrams. I do 2 pills in the morning and do 2 pills between 1 and 2, all right? And then the other thing that you might want to do is work with some mushrooms, that mushroom builder, the Immune Builder 5 mushroom formula that I was describing earlier. Mushrooms turn on the cell part of the immune system. That can be helpful as well too, all right? I'm going to do a quick screen share here. I want to show you all something. All right, so I always get asked after these webinars where to get supplements. And so if you're looking for the brands that I use and also what I use, this is my supplement store, Marty Ross MD, Terrabrook ND Supplements. This is where my patients get their supplements. And the reason I chose this to have a store and even to stock it with certain brands of supplements is I'm wanting to make sure that when I offer supplements to my patients, that I have chosen products that, based on my research, have the greatest chance of working. In other words, that they have sourced for the best materials, okay? Secondly, when somebody has Lyme, I do not want to put toxins in a person. And there's many lower cost supplements out there that will use fillers that might be harmful, okay? And the products that I've chosen here do not do that, all right? So in terms of immune supports, this mushrooms that I've told you about, you can look under our supplements tab here, look by medical problem, and then come over here and look under immune system. And in here you will see, where is it? Well, how do you like that? It looks like I don't have the Immune Builder 5 mushroom formula here. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yes, the Immune Builder 5 mushroom formula. And this is what I would recommend. I would do one of these 3 times a day. Okay. All right. And then the ashwagandha that I was talking about, I'm just going to type ashwa. So you could use, if you're, I talk in generics, but if you're looking for what we have, here's our ashwagandha. It's an organic India product. It's actually GMO free as well too. Okay. All right. Let me go back here. All right, Randy, good luck recovering from that surgery too. The other thing I'd let you know, whenever you have a Lyme setback or a Lyme relapse, typically you're going to pop back out within about 2 to 3 months of getting back on the right treatment, okay? So I hope you turn around fairly quickly here. All right, good luck. And thank you for that question. Hello, Ryan. Let's see, second question. What are your thoughts on using anabolic steroids, small dose, for reducing inflammation and building body and decreasing symptoms? Is this bad for the immune system like steroids? How about testosterone? So testosterone's fine as long as you use testosterone in physiologic ranges, okay? In other words, so that your levels come in a normal range. But anabolic steroids, I would be concerned of immune suppression with that. Probably wouldn't do it. All right? All right. Good luck to you, Ryan. All right, let's see here. Hello, Joanne. Can Lyme cause Parkinson's? And the answer is that I answered earlier was yes. And then how do you treat it? So to treat Parkinson's Lyme, you want to make sure you can start with oral antibiotics, okay? And so any of the antibiotics, you want to make sure that you treat just like you would any Lyme, which is make sure you're on at least 2 antibiotics to treat all 3 forms of the germ, all right? And I would start with orals first and make sure how a person is responding. Can they tolerate them? And after about a month, I might then transition to doing an IV treatment or an IV equivalent treatment. So make one of your antibiotics an IV antibiotic, all right? So you can either do that with an IV antibiotic, or things that will work as strongly as IV antibiotics is to use whopping doses of oral amoxicillin. That's an IV equivalent treatment. And by that, I mean 500 milligrams, 3 or 4 of those pills 3 times a day. Okay, so that's like 3 or 4 times the normal range we might in other illnesses. All right, that can work as well as an IV antibiotic. Or doing butt muscle injections of something called bicillin. Okay, so those are some things I would think about doing that are germ killing. All right, so but still beyond oral agents also that cross over against the blood-brain barrier as well too. All right, so use antibiotics. Second thing is make sure you're, and this is regardless of whether Parkinson's is Lyme or not Lyme, you want to be on coenzyme Q10. It has been shown to help symptoms in Parkinson's disease, but you want to dose it at 1,200 milligrams or higher a day, okay? And so you can get it as a 400 milligram pill at our site, and you would take it 1 pill 3 times a day. But you got to be in the 1,200 milligram range for it to help with Parkinson's. Also for Parkinson's, you want to be on antioxidants, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin C can be helpful as well too. And then get in there and kill your germs, okay? All right. Good luck. Joanne, if you need more specific recommendations given your situation, feel free to look at one of the one-to-one consults. I'll be glad to give you some more specific recommendations, okay? All right. Good luck to you. Hello, Susan. Let's see. Thank you for all your support. My whole endocrine system has collapsed. Bioidentical hormone treatment has not worked, so they have now prescribed progesterone and testosterone in an effort to kickstart the thyroid. Once Lyme is eradicated, will everything come back to normal? So generally, once you get Lyme under control, the immune system will turn, or the hormonal system will turn back on. What's happening, one of the things that could be happening is excess cytokines interfere with how part of the brain works called the hypothalamus pituitary. And that's the part of the brain that governs your hormonal systems, okay? And so what that part of the brain is supposed to do is it's supposed to interpret whether you have enough adrenal function or you have enough thyroid function, you have enough testosterone, progesterone, et cetera. And then it's supposed to then release chemicals that talk to the hormone producing parts of the body and tell them to make hormones. The problem is on all those excess cytokines is the hypothalamus pituitary's ability to interpret correctly gets impaired. And when its ability to interpret is impaired, it cannot correctly determine whether you have enough thyroid or whether you have enough progesterone. And therefore, it's going to incorrectly direct, okay? So one of the things that a lot of doctors will do is they'll measure the chemicals made by the hypothalamus pituitary, like thyroid stimulating hormone, or something called ACTH, which directs the adrenals, or something called follicle stimulating hormone that directs the your testicles or ovaries, okay? And but you can't rely on those measurements when you have a hyper cytokine state, okay? So yeah, you should be able to get those back under control as Lyme gets under control. One thing that you want to make sure you're doing in addition to what they're doing by replacing hormones is actually knock your cytokines down. So make sure you're doing the things I recommend to do that. One of the big things would be to be on the curcumin that I mentioned in all of my webinars and most of my articles within my site, 500 milligrams 3 times a day at least, curcumin, okay? All right, very good, Susan. Good luck to you. Sorry you're having such a hard time there. All right, bye-bye. All right, let's see here. Hello, Danae. Let's see, how to deal with agitation. So agitation is coming from an agitated central nervous system, okay? And, without knowing more of your particular situation, make sure you're treating your right germs, okay? So make sure you're getting your Lyme taken care of, you're killing that. Sometimes agitation can be part of Bartonella too. So look at, I showed you earlier tonight, an article you can read to help figure out if you have Bartonella. And if you do have Bartonella, make sure that's being treated too, okay? But then there's a couple of supplements that you can use to help calm agitation. One is nutrient doses of lithium, okay? Now lithium, that may scare you. Lithium is something we use for psychiatric illnesses, like people that have bipolar illness or manic depression. And when we use it psychiatrically, we're going to use it somewhere around 600 to 900 milligrams a day in an adult, all right? But when I'm using it at a nutrient level, I'm going to use it as a product called lithium orotate. That's OROTATE. It's a 5 milligram pill, and you want to do 5 milligrams 3 times a day. It's a supplement, okay? Now, at that level, it's shown to help nerve communication, or something known as nerve signaling, okay? It can help with that, and can help calm an agitated nervous system. Another thing you can try is the herb called L-theanine. That's L-theanine, Theanine. Theanine is a chemical found in green tea, and in the brain, theanine is converted into GABA. And GABA is a chemical for which there are GABA receptors in the brain. And when you give GABA to a GABA receptor, it calms an agitated nervous system down too. So the way you can use L-theanine is it comes as a 100 milligram pill, and you want to take it as anywhere from 1 to 3 pills, actually 1 to 4 pills, 3 times a day. Don't go over 1,200 milligrams a day though, okay? But that can help calm an agitated nervous system down too, all right? All right. So those are some ideas for you. And again, you can find those at the supplement store that I showed you earlier tonight. All right. Thanks for that question. Good luck. All right. Hello, Tanya. Let's see. You mentioned persister Lyme in your last webinar. What do you treat for persister Lyme? How do you know if you have this? Also, what do you think about CBD oil to treat Lyme symptoms, fight bacteria, and control cytokines? Thank you. All right. So let's start with the CBD oil first. So CBD oil, everyone, comes from marijuana plants, all right? It's called cannabinoid oil. And so the marijuana plant has the green parts, the green leaves, the green stems, and it's got the bud, okay? Now, the bud is the thing that people use recreationally. It's what they get high on. The bud of the plant is rich in something called THC, and that's what gets you the high, all right? The rest of the plant is rich in CBD, and always there's a little THC still in that CBD, so you can't get just pure CBD oil. CBD will have the same medicinal benefits that THC does from the bud, but doesn't give you the high usually, okay? Now, CBD can help with most Lyme symptoms and may kill the germs too. And that's based on some Petri dish experiments. Now, keep in mind, the federal government here in the States has banned basically most marijuana research. So we don't have a lot of research about anything, all right? But Dr. Ernie Murakami, who is a Lyme specialist up in British Columbia, Canada, who lost his license for treating Lyme, still continues to have the good fight though. And so he's a good proponent for treatment. He's helped train a lot of the naturopaths to treat Lyme up in British Columbia. And he's just a wealth of information. But one of the things that he's done, he's participated in, I believe, are Petri dish experiments where he's been able to show that that it can kill Lyme. When I use it here in the States, and I am in a state of Washington, in the United States, where we have a medicinal marijuana law. We also have recreational marijuana now too. But I find it's helpful for treating symptoms. I just have not found CBD to be that helpful when it comes to helping kill the Lyme germ, all right? So anyhow, yeah, I think it can be quite helpful. The main drawback to CBD is although it helps with many symptoms, it will limit thinking, okay? So it can interfere with thinking, and that's already a difficult situation for most people with Lyme. THC will also impair thinking, but it can help with the nausea, it can help with the body pain, it can help with some of the fatigue. So it could be a trade-off that's worth it for many people, okay? All right, then persister Lyme. So, and again, this is, I think I've gone into a summer slowdown in terms of writing articles here, everyone, so I apologize for that. Hopefully in the fall, as we get out of nice weather here, I'll get back to writing things again. But I keep promising an article on persister Lyme, but here's the basics of it. So one of the things that's going on in the research world right now is trying to figure out why people from Lyme don't get better, all right? And it's been postulated, thought of, or theorized that one of the reasons may be that there is this thing called persister cells. We know that other germs like tuberculosis have the ability to develop persister cells, and it's been wondered if Lyme can do that as well too. So you can kind of think of a persister form of a germ as being a form of the germ that stops responding to antibiotics. The form of the germ becomes tolerant to the antibiotics, not resistant, but tolerant. It just ignores it basically. And the way I like to think of persister cells is as a germ that's gone into hibernation, okay? Now, there's a research group out of Boston, out of Northeastern University, about a year and a half ago, published a study looking at this idea of persister cells. And what they were able to show on their Petri dish experiments is that about 20% of Lyme germs, when exposed to antibiotics, will turn into persister cells. But that if you stop antibiotics, those persister cells will go back into a growth state again and then start responding to the antibiotics. And in their experiments, they were able to show that off of antibiotics for 24 hours, if they were to wash the antibiotic, literally in a very controlled environment, wash those cells off of the antibiotics, that the germs would go back into a growth state, okay? So based on their studies, their Petri dish experiments, they were able to show if they start and stop antibiotics 4 times, they could eradicate all of the germ. Now that's a Petri dish experiment, okay? But based on that study, many of my colleagues, myself included, now do pulsing of antibiotics, okay? Which means starting and stopping the antibiotics. Now, I do not agree that pulsing is a good idea for Bartonella co-infections and Babesia co-infections, okay? So if some of the antibiotics you're using for Lyme are also being used to treat your Babesia and your Bartonella, don't pulse them, because those germs replicate fast, okay? So for instance, Bartonella replicates every 24 hours. So if on the days that you're off your antibiotics that you're using for Lyme and Bart, guess what? That Bartonella is coming back. So don't pulse until you're done treating your Bartonella, right? Now, I am seeing some crazy pulse regimens that some of my colleagues are coming up with. I mean, they'll have a person pulse this antibiotic on this day, that day, and on the other day, they take this antibiotic and that antibiotic. What I do, I just do something more simple. The experiment, that Petri dish experiment, would suggest to me that you need to be off of any antibiotic killing the germ for a period of time to get it back growing again, all right? So I stop my antibiotics for 3 days, and then I pulse them for 4 days. So 4 days on, 3 day off regimens is what I'm doing, okay? And it just seems to make more sense. But I am seeing some crazy regimens some of my colleagues are proposing. And what the truth is, who knows? We don't have human research that says what is the ideal amount of time to be off or to be on antibiotics when we pulse the antibiotics, okay? We just don't know. But the current rage of the season is to be pulsing, and I'm doing it now. And we'll see. I mean, a year from now, we may say this whole experiment of pulsing antibiotics is crazy. It makes no difference, all right? And I think for some of my patients, it doesn't make any difference, and they do worse pulsing, and I go back on a continuous use antibiotic, okay? So that's one thing you can do for persister Lyme. That's pulse your antibiotics. Another thing you can do is use antibiotics that are shown to help kill persister cells. And so Horowitz, who many of you know has written a book on Lyme disease, Horowitz published a study about a month and a half ago. It was published. If you Google Horowitz and Dapsone, D-A-P-S-O-N-E, you will find his study of 100 people in his office. Okay, now keep in mind, 100 people studies don't really mean much, because it's hard to say if my 100 people in my practice have the same characteristics as the 100 people in his practice, okay? And so what works in a 100-person study, we don't know if it's going to work when we break it out to the general population. But Horowitz took a drug that we use in leprosy called Dapsone, and we use it in leprosy because leprosy has persister cells. And he had people in his office or in his practice, 100 people start taking that. Now, that was the only thing that was identical for every one of the 100, okay? He developed other antibiotics to have them all take in addition to their Dapsone, and there was a lot of variation from person to person as to who was taking what. But Horowitz's studies showed that when people took Dapsone, that they about 59% had improvements, but the people that had the most improvements were people that also had Babesia. All right. So I'm still not quite certain what Horowitz study means for me in my practice in Seattle, Washington. I have started using Dapsone. It's too early for me to tell what kind of difference it does make. It's something you have to be careful with, though. It will deplete folate. So everyone that is on Dapsone, you have to take 1 milligram of folate at a time. The other thing is you need to make sure you don't have a deficiency of something called G6PD. There's a blood test you can do. If you have G6PD deficiency and you take Dapsone, it's going to give you severe anemia. So you have to have a blood test done first to see if you have G6PD deficiency. All right. So those are some thoughts. And one of these days, I am going to put that article together. But that's what I'm starting to do around persister Lyme. All right. And Tanya, thank you for that. All right, let's see here. Hello, Fran. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Rifampin and clindamycin and the entire treatment plan is underway for BART. The tendon pain has become intense. What else can I do to relieve this? So, rifampin I do find is helpful in BART. I'm not quite certain that clindamycin treats BART. I'm not saying it doesn't. I just haven't seen any evidence that it does. And I'm not sure why you're getting the tendon pain. I don't think of either of these antibiotics as being ones that would trigger tendon pain. You could be having tendon pain, though, because clindamycin can kill Lyme, and killing Lyme can trigger Herxheimer reaction. Killing BART does not trigger Herx reactions. Rifampin can kill Lyme, too, all right? So one thing I might do for your tendon pain is lower your cytokines, do the things I do for Herxheimer reaction, look at using your curcumin, 500 milligrams, 3 times a day. And if that's not strong enough, do it as 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay, that's one thing I would consider doing. The other thing is add magnesium. Get those muscles and tendons to relax. 400 to 600 milligrams at nighttime. All right, those are some thoughts that I have for you. Okay, all right. Good luck to you, Fran. And thank you for that question. Hello, Carrie. Let's see. I'm glad you talked about LDN, low-dose naltrexone, everyone. I was going to ask my doc about it, and I didn't know it was a narcotic blocker, and 2 of my seizure meds are narcotics. Yeah, that is a concern, Carrie. The only way you could still do it is if you're off, you do the LDN, and usually within 6 hours, it's out of your system, and then use your narcotics when you're in the off period, okay? But it does get to be tricky to use along with narcotics. All right. All right. Good luck to you. Let's see here. Hello, Robert. Let's see. How would you treat symptoms of Bartonella if not showing up in a test? A Galaxy lab test did show exposure to B. henselae FA at 1 to 64, but negative on the PCR DNA test. Okay. So one thing about the Galaxy labs that I just want to tell everyone. So Galaxy has done a great job of promoting itself as being the best BART test out there. Maybe it is, maybe not, but there's still a glaring drawback problem with the Galaxy BART test. And that is it is only testing for 2 of a potential 30 strains of Bartonella, which is the same problem I have with the fish test that's being done by Igenix and a lot of the other labs, okay? So we estimate that there are actually 30 strains of Bartonella. So even though your testing is negative or weakly positive in this case, even on Galaxy is only testing for 2 strains. If you have enough symptoms of Bartonella, you should still treat for Bartonella, okay? All right, that's what I want. That's what I'll say about that. All right, good luck to you, Robert. Hello, Sarah. Is it possible for a person to get over Lyme disease without treatment? Yes, it's possible. I mean, the immune system is amazing. In fact, I think there probably are a lot of people out there walking around that have Lyme in them, that their immune systems have just done a great job taking care of it. All right, I think that's very possible. Now, if you're talking, are you symptomatic? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the main thing I would do, though, it's possible, but a small chance. If you're having symptoms of Lyme, that means your immune system already is probably having suppression issues, all right? And if you're mildly symptomatic, I mean, yeah, in theory, you could try to do immune support. I would definitely, work on your adrenals, work on your thyroid, get sleep. The things I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the article about treating the immune system basics, follow all those steps, okay? But I got to tell you, it's rare. However, I do think that there are a number of people that are walking around out there where the immune systems have done the job, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Sarah. Hello, Robert. Let's see. How do you feel about Buhner protocol for Bartonella, and can you take rifampin and minocycline at the same time? Yes, you can take rifampin and minocycline at the same time. Those 2 together treat Lyme, because rifampin will treat cyst Lyme, minocycline will treat intracellular Lyme, and spirochete Lyme, 3 of the 3 forms of Lyme, okay? Rifampin is a great lead agent for treating Bartonella. Sometimes we'll even get rid of it on its own, and it's definitely supported by minocycline. That prescription combination for Bartonella works about 85% of the time, okay? I prefer prescription options over Buhner herbs for treating Bartonella. Buhner's protocol for treating Bartonella, he's an herbalist, everyone. His herbs will work maybe 70-75% of the time. I find prescription protocols to work better as long as you're doing everything to support your immune system by following my successful treatment recipe, which means get sleep, lower cytokines, get yeast out, treat your other infections, adjust your thyroid, adjust your adrenals. You got to deal with all that stuff too, okay? I think you'll do better than on the Buhner protocol. All right. Good luck to you, Robert. Thank you for that question. All right. Listen, everyone, I'm about done here. I'm just going to do a couple wrap-ups here. Let's see. Hello. Let's see, Matt. Matt, oh, I see. I am Michelle, Matt's wife. Thank you for letting me know that, Michelle. I thought there was somebody else asking me that question. I appreciate that. Let's see here. One other, I'll do this as a quick one, actually. I think I'll do it. Let's see. Hi, Tanya. Do you recommend hyperbaric oxygen sessions for help with Lyme disease? The only time I find hyperbaric oxygen to be helpful is if nothing else is working. In other words, I don't find it helpful that often. But I think the potential benefit of it, when nothing else is working, I think it becomes then worth the cost, okay? If you're going to do hyperbaric oxygen, you want to do about 40 dives down to 2.4 atmospheres, which means you need to find a hard shell tank. And you're going to talk about $5,000 to do that. So it's expensive, and I only find it helpful maybe about 20 to 40% of the time. I just don't find it to be that beneficial of a treatment, okay? All right. So with that, everyone, that's it for me tonight. The Basenjis are getting restless here. Those are my dogs, everyone, and I got to get them out. So I enjoyed myself with you tonight. I hope you all learned some things. Look for your email tomorrow morning. I will give you a link when that recording is ready. Generally, it is ready first thing in the morning. It depends if I'm able to edit well tonight, and I plan on doing that. In a second here, I'm going to take you over to the Treat Lyme site. From there, if you do want to subscribe, I do appreciate if you subscribe. That helps support the webinars. The way you subscribe is click on any article you want to read, and if you have not subscribed, you're going to be asked to subscribe. And keep in mind, when you do that, you support the webinars, okay? So I'd appreciate if you would do that. And also, when I take you over to the Treat Lyme book, when I redirect you there here in a second, you can sign up for next week's webinar. All right. Good night, everyone. And thanks for being here tonight. Bye-bye.